Healthcare. Eclat Healthcare is a subsidiary of Interswitch, and if you are very conversant with the news, you would have seen the recent partnership of Interswitch with the Lagos State government for a healthcare management platform. So that's business is under the Eclat Healthcare department or subsidiary of Interswitch. All right, so I'll be reading his bio for just a few minutes. So Dr. Babajide Oyeduntan is a seasoned medical doctor and business development executive with over 17 years post-qualification experience. He is an alumnus of Obafemi Awolowo University. Dr. Oyeduntan's career took quickly turn transitioned practice of clinical medicine to the dynamic world of business development in healthcare. So let's give a round of applause to our speaker, Dr. Babajide Oyeduntan. Thank you so much for joining us today. Are you there, Dr. Babajide?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Please confirm that you can see me and you can hear me.
Yeah. I can see you and I can hear you. I believe every other person can. All right. So let's dive right into it. So I would like you to give us a brief introduction about yourself, about how your experience so far. You have a very, very interesting career, seeing that you spent a good number of years, if not up to a decade, in studying to be a medical practitioner. And all of a sudden, you pivoted and now you're in sales, and not even just anything in sales, you're in C-suite. So how was that? How were you able to navigate that, and how did you go about that?
Okay. So like you said in my bio, I trained at IFE, did my house job in UCH, and after that, I mean, I knew from school that I wasn't really interested in practicing the clinical side of medicine. Let me put it that way. I was more interested in, should I say, the administrative side, which was more around the manner in which patients were treated. I mean, if you're familiar with a place like UCH, it's quite an expansive facility. And I used to joke around to say that if you have a patient in UCH as a patient relative, by the time that patient spends 1 week, you would break down because of all the running around you would have to do. And it was more or less around the inefficiency of the way things were structured in UCH. You pay here, you walk maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes to collect the sample bottles, you come back to the ward, all over the place. And so after school, after that, I started work in a private facility in Lagos, and have made sure that I had some input in how things were done in the facility as well, to improve processes and all that. Then I started looking for what to do after that. I got a job with Hygia HMO. Back then, Hygia was like what's the number one bank now in banking? The Zenith people will say Zenith, the GT people say GT, but you get the point. So Hygia was like the top tier in the HMO space then. And I, got in as an account manager, which was a role that was basically dependent on all the other roles. So you're the face of the HMO, but then it's a different team that handles the hospitals, a different team that handles the claims, it's a different team that sells your products, your services. And I sort of started putting my eyes into all the different teams to just get a better understanding of how things worked. Then I started going out to the sales team. And at some point I said, let me try my hand. These guys what are these guys doing that is different? It's just talking to people and convincing them to sell, to buy. And so I started, and gradually started taking on more senior roles until last year. I moved around a bit. I moved from Hygia to an insurance broker first. Then from the insurance broker, moved to Avon. From Avon, I moved to Redcare. From Redcare to THT, then back to Avon, then back to Hygia. So Hygia, I went back as head of sales and distribution. Later head of sales and marketing before I now moved last year to Interswitch eClass. So I've only been in the tech space for a little over a year. So that's been my journey so far.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. There's something very interesting you mentioned that I like to ask people anytime I have the opportunity to talk to them. So there is this ongoing debate in the ecosystem, usually around job hopping or staying in a particular place for a number of years, like 10 years, 15 years, and whatnot. So your experience, you seem to have a lot in your career. So did that play a role in your like the speed at which you climb the ladder and now you're in the industry of business development?
I would say yes, and I would also say that I guess my background also gave me a lot of leverage. So I'm in the healthcare space. I trained as a medical doctor. I'm into business development. It's a unique mix that I guess gave me some sort of advantage over um, other people. But then at the same time, I think it's also a function of having being able to deliver value in whatever role that I was given. So I've worked in Avon twice. I've worked in Hygia twice. And I would say that the only reason why a former employer would take you back and in a more senior role is most likely because they believed that while you were there, no matter how long or how short the time was, there was some value that you brought in, and you can still bring in more value. So, from a personal perspective, I think that yes, the job hopping made um, the moves faster, though not all the roles were vertical moves, some were horizontal. But I mean, it was all about building experience and adding value. Uh, if again, not everybody is the same. Some people are comfortable being in the same space for years. The most important thing is that you find where you are rewarding and you're not staying just because you're afraid to go out there. I was having a conversation with my daughter this evening, and I told her, I said, look, imposter syndrome is normal, right? You get a new role, the first few months you're thinking, oh, have I made a mistake? Who sent me message? Those kind of things. But then you take a step back and you deliver. So I came into tech. My knowledge of tech is not beyond what I know about working with gadgets and all that. And then suddenly I'm talking to product managers, I'm talking to DevOps engineers, I'm holding project implementation meetings, and I'm supposed to be selling a product that I have no clue about. So what did I do? I talk to people. I think I get more information when I talk versus when I read. So I talk to people. I ask questions. I join meetings. I think for the first 2 3 months, I was joining almost every meeting that was available I came across. Not because I had anything to say, but because I would listen to what people would say and, you know, take that as part of my learning. And of course, I will complement that with reading also. And so I think to a large extent now, I'm comfortable enough in my space to also sound like somebody who has been selling tech for a while, you know. So that's it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. There is a very salient point that you mentioned that I would like to also reiterate. So I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday. She has been in HR for about 3 years, and she's trying to pivot into tech sales. So one of the things that you said is having like delivering value and also we're able to combine your experience in the health sector with transition into health tech. So I understand that most of the members of our community are also members of our community are also important to tech sales or maybe in other industry like FMC. So let's assume that you are in you're currently doing HR and also tech sales. You focus on getting roles in tech HR companies like paid HR, like seamless HR, all of those kind of companies, so that you have some transferable skills that can be beneficial in those organizations as well. That's very, very salient. Thank you so much. So, one now I want to really hit on the new partnership with Lagos State government. So, while I was at my previous employer, used to have about four government businesses, and these businesses was in 90 to 95% of our revenue. So in Nigeria today, and there are some organizations like Remita, for example, Remita, the partnership they have with the federal government for TSA collection is a huge chunk of revenue for them. How do you get this kind of partnerships considering the level of bureaucracy, given the time it takes? Because there are some of these partnerships that can't go as long as 1 year, as long as 2 years. So how do you navigate that?
Okay, so I think the first thing to say is that if you're going to do business with the government, you have to be patient. You can hardly walk around that bureaucracy because that's just how the government works, right? The Lagos State partnership that you mentioned has been a conversation that has been in the works for 3, 4 years, and it was just signed 2 months ago. So that is how it is. I'm currently in conversations with about 2 or 3 state governments. These are conversations that were started um, last year. I'll give an instance. There was one that I started, I think it was about June, no, about July or August last year. Had to travel, spend a couple of days, came back, everything went quiet. And then I think it was about March before we're finally able to get FaceTime with the commissioner. And then we had that meeting again, uh, did our presentation, everything. And then they said, okay, you hear from us. And between then and now, it's still radio silence, right? So that's typical government, especially if you are particularly an ethical organization that wants to do everything above board. They're not looking to settle. They're not looking to, it's just part and parcel of of the job. But then some key things that I think are worthy of note. First of all, you need to understand the government parastatal that you're approaching. You need to be able to demonstrate the value that your service or product is going to bring in. Now more than before, with government saying they are not liquid enough to finance projects, right? You have to be able to demonstrate some sort of revenue generation model for them as well. So it's not just about deploying your solution now and say, oh, this solution will build castles in the air. Everybody wants to talk about Naira and Kobo now. You have to be able to show some sort of projections. Okay, if we charge 1 Naira per person and you do an average of 1,000 transactions per day over a period of time, this is how much. Because regardless of whatever model you want to push to the government, if it's going to, whether it's a PPP or a BOT or whatever, you have to still consider, are you asking them to fund the project either in full or partially? If they are funding, they're not just going to fund, they also want to be able to recoup that investment back. So you have to be clear in terms of what you're offering, the value you're offering, and what the ROI is for the government as well. Then again, I think another thing that seems to work is that you have to be in their face. Identify the key stakeholders. For example, in my own space, I found that not necessarily the Commissioner of Health is the key decision maker, right? We sell EMRs. If I want to sell to a state, who are the users? I'm looking at the primary healthcare centers. I'm looking at the general hospitals. So for me, the key people in that conversation, the head of the primary healthcare agency for the state, the PS of the health management board that oversees the secondary care facilities, the general hospitals, the state hospitals. Now, those are people that you have to find ways to penetrate. Another thing that I think works for us, from my experience, you have to be willing to work with partners. You cannot know everybody. You cannot walk into a ministry today and say because you're a jolly good fellow, you will make friends with everybody right up to the top. So partnerships is something that works. I try to network, I try to go for events, not necessarily because of anything other than to network. You never know who you would meet. I was on a panel, I think that was last month, and coincidentally on the same panel with me were people that I feel can solve some of the problems that I have in my own space right now. I'm looking at financing options for clients, and then I'm sitting on a panel with somebody who works with Africa Business Coalition, right? So of course, immediately after the panel, I'm sitting in her face, I'm gisting with her, I'm exchanging numbers, I'm telling her my problems. Like, oh, these are the problems I'm having in my space. I've been looking for financing for people. These are the kind of models I'm thinking. And she's very interested. And I said, oh, yes, I would see you in your office at some point. I was on the same panel with a doctor who works in the Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Health, who happens to be the Chief Data Officer for the Federal Ministry of Health. Now, I've tried several times to get into the Ministry of Health. So immediately after the call, we talk, we exchange numbers. Immediately after the call, I've gone and sent him a LinkedIn invite, a connection request. he's accepted. Now I have a leg in. So those are the things that I feel that we should look to explore as salespeople who want to work in government or who want to do business with government. You have to find where they are. You have to be able to position yourself where they are. You need to be able to show them that you know what you're talking about, right? You need to be able to showcase what you've done in the past. So if you've done one project or two projects in the past, yes. I mean, before we signed the ship project, we're in a couple of states. Anybody I meet, I'm saying, oh, we're in this state, we're in that state, we're doing 50 PhDs here, we've done 100 PhDs here, we've been there for 4 years, we've been there for 3 years. You know, those are things that let people know that, okay, if you've been in a state for 3 years, 4 years,
You're credible.
there's credibility in what you're saying, right? So you blow your own horn, you toot your horn, you talk about the things you've done for that state. So these are the things we've done. Oh, and we can just plug and play in your state, you know, replicate the same system. Those are the things that you need to keep in mind. But you see, the first things first is you need to place yourself where you can meet those people. So from an organizational point of view, you need to hold your marketing guys like this because it's their job to give you face time, right? I look out for events. I send to my marketing team and I tell them, do some due diligence on this event. Is this something that is worth our while? Will it generate traffic for us? Who are the kind of people that would be in attendance? Now, if everything checks out, then I must be there. So I can be in those people's faces. So positioning, very key for us as salespeople. And you have to work with your marketing team on that. I mean, they know how to vet those things. They know how to negotiate the sponsorship deals and all those things. But you need to position yourself. Then you need to be able to identify the key stakeholders in the arm of government that you're working with. As I gave the example, I work in health. I deal with health ministries, right? And I'm saying that it is not in all states that the commissioner, yes, the commissioner might have the final say, right? But most times, because they are appointees, they are very dependent on what the PAMSECs say or do. So you want to position yourself in such a manner that you're there. And even for those accounts that you've already won, government is volatile, right? An election can hold tomorrow. A new governor comes in, he has to settle his people. He replaces the commissioner. More often times than not, your PS would outlive 3-4 commissioners as PS. So if you put all your eggs in the commissioner's basket, when there's a cabinet reshuffle tomorrow, your guy is gone. Then the PS who has been waiting for you, saying she is Oga, will then now to ginger and say that your solution is not working. And the new commissioner will just take that at face value and they bring in their own people. Then you must build those relationships. Yes, you are doing ethical business. So we are not allowed to give riba, right? But you build relationships. Even if it is just branded gift items you provide. You go visit those states, just around, how's everything? Do you have any feedback for us? Is there anything else we can add to what we are doing for you? You know, get them on your side because, again, elections would always happen. Even if you come in when the current governor came in, 8 years after, he will go. You are not looking to start that process all over again in 8 years. So you want to stay beyond that governor. Now, you embed yourself in the system. Make sure that your solution is useful. It must show demonstrable value, right? The people who are using it they must be happy using it. It's all about relationship management. It's not necessarily settlement. If you base your relationship on settlement, which is one thing I've also learned, if you base your relationship on I'm settling, I'm giving money, the moment Koejo comes with more money than you are giving, you will be out on the street. But if you base your relationship such that they are dealing with you because they trust you, then you are harder to dislodge from where you are, regardless of the changes in government.
Fantastic, fantastic. There is one very salient point that you mentioned, and I also have an experience. Sorry, before I continue, can you guys hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, a few years ago, we had a contract with a state government to collect um, payments from students in all state-owned institutions in that state. And when a new government came in, that was the end of the contract. We lost the contract immediately. So the contract lasted for about 3 years. And also, that contract was not a direct contract to my organization. It was a partnership with another organization who was close to the government. So that's also to buttress your point on partnerships. Now, how do you then deal with this level of volatility in government? Like, how do you ensure that you have a very sustainable business that will run multiple years, like decades, and not just okay, anytime there's a change in government, you lose your business? How do you ensure that you do that? You have a sustainable business around your public partnerships.
Yeah, so I'll still reiterate the things I said before. The relationship building. Because now you have won the accounts, right? So what you have to do now is to keep the accounts. Now, provide reports. You see, if it is not documented, it never happened.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
quarterly reports, they don't have to ask you. You, regardless of how inefficient you think government is, right? You have a file. Because every time they pay you, they put your pay advice in that file, in their finance department. Now, imagine you have a file, and after 8 years, somebody calls for your file, and all they see is payments outgoing, payments outgoing, payments outgoing. It's easy for anybody to build a case to say, maybe you're just a money laundering
Organization.
You're just a money laundering channel for the previous administration, right? But if you go, you send Q1 status reports, whatever it is that you have sold to the government over the last quarter, this is what we did, this is what we did, this is what we did, these are the challenges that we did, these are planned for Q2, bam, you submit it, hard copy, let them stamp acknowledged, you save it. The next quarter again, you do the same thing. After 8 years, you have sent in quarterly reports for the last 8 years, in addition to your payments. If anybody even calls tomorrow to say we want to destroy this guy, all you need is just to have FaceTime and say, okay, we have been working. See all the reports, look at all the things we've done, everything. At least, even if after all that, they still tell you to go, you will go with your head held high, knowing that, yes, this is a purely political decision and not because there was no obvious value that you've added. Then have regular stakeholder engagements. You must always identify. It's not, and it goes beyond just the organs. You see those clerks, those officers, you go there, wire the guy credits, 2K credits, This one that you have been calling me, safe. Which network are you using? Let me just send you money for data. You know, not because he has anything to do for you right now, but you're just, like they say in Yoruba, you're pouring water on the ground, right? When things are going to happen, those are the kind of people that will just let you know that there's fire on the mountain. I remember one of the states that we were in, we had quite a backlog of payments outstanding. I mean, that's another drawback of working with government. Your money can hang for months.
Yes.
Right? But then when they pay, your account feels it. Everybody in the business feels it, right? So our money had been hanging, right? And I went down to the States, met with the ES, had some conversations with the people around, just pally. Then went to somebody and said, look, I'm new in this role, right? You guys are owing us money. This money are monies that you have been owing us before I even joined. But it's my job to recover this money because it's hitting my receivables. So what can you do for me? What do we do? How do we do it? Blah, 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 blah. And she says this, she says that, she says that. I'm like, okay. Please, can I get your number so I can reach you later? So no problem. And then later in the evening, I just give her a call. Thank you very much. This, that, you're very helpful. I've started working on the things you've asked for. This, that. In fact, let me just send you data money. So that if you need to call me, you won't stress yourself to call me. And I sent 2,000, 3,000 naira credit, and that was it. And I came back to Lagos, I think a week or so after. I called again, and then she says, oh, that she's spoken to some guy who says we have to do this, we have to do this. And then she gives me the guy's number straight up. Then I start dealing with the guy directly. And then first thing the guy tells me that our file is missing. I'm like, how can we have worked with you for 4 years and then we suddenly don't have a file? And then we have to start running around. I have to look internally, start documents from 4 years, 5 years, providing, resubmitting. We got paid eventually, right? And it was a good sum of money. And it ended up being worth it. But my point is, we had been talking to ES. We're not getting any traction. It was procurement officers that solved my problem for me. So you never go into a place looking at just the top. Those guys at the bottom, your file is missing. I called ES. I said they said our file is missing. The guy said, well, I don't know. ES does not deal with files. You understand? So those are the little nuances that you just have to take note of when you're dealing with government to help your business stay in government.
Nice. Thank you so much. So manage relationships at all levels, at the top level, middle level, and even at lower level, clerks, and all those other guys are also stakeholders. So what are the different nuances between public and private sector partnerships? Because I understand that at some point in your career, this is when you're working with Avon, Hygia, and all the other HMOs or insurance companies. Those, I believe that you were working primarily with, you were having mostly private partnerships. However, at Interswitch now, you are working mostly with public sector parastatals. So like what are the different nuances? How has it affected you in terms of maybe your operations and how you manage your sales operations basically?
Okay, so I still deal with private clients here. It's just that, like you said earlier, the public sector will give you more money. The energy that you put into converting one private hospital is and the revenue that comes from it compared to the public sector. But then you have to have, like, because again, it takes time to convert the public sector. So
Yeah.
you use the private sector. I always tell my CEO that, look, because he's always like, oh, private and public sector. I said, we have a sales team. They have to be busy. So let them chase private sector. Me and you will be doing public sector together. Let's give them targets, keep them busy. Those small monies will keep the lights on and all that, right? The difference is both take time to convert. More now because hospitals are more or less running on fumes. So buying software now from a financial perspective for a lot of them is a problem. So I've had to do a lot of price remodeling in the last 1 year, adapting to what the market is saying and all that, right? We had to do a similar thing with the public sector, but it was more straightforward with the public sector. All you need to do is just now infuse a revenue generating model and a sharing formula with the state government. So know that there's IGR coming from that partnership as well. But for private sector, they're very price sensitive. Very, very price sensitive. I've haggled for 30 minutes on the phone with somebody before because we wanted to take out 2,500 naira from the pricing we quoted. For 30 minutes, a professor, 2.5, you know, and then the man is telling me, okay, you will pay now. Next year, the price will drop by this much because he knows that dollar will go down. And I'm like, sir, yes, I pray that dollar will go down. But it will be counterintuitive of me to be agreeing to a price reduction now against next year. What if, you know? So those are the kind of things we see. Again, it's really basically around the financial muscle. There's a level of bureaucracy too in my own space because most hospitals, private hospitals, are one-man businesses. So even when you start talking to them, or you're talking to the IT guy, or you're talking to the admin person, you still find out that you still have to circle back to the MD to sign contracts, to sign award letters, to take final decisions. So there's a lot of bureaucracy in that aspect as well. Yeah, I think there isn't really much. The only difference is just the scale of the transaction. At the end of the day, when you put them side by side, right, you're still going through the same wahala. It's just that they may take, they will take a while, but when you compare to government, it's shorter. It's just that you may take 3 months, 4 months to convert one facility, whereas a government conversation can take 1 year, 1.5 years. But again, they will tell you, depending on the size of the transaction, the governor may not be able to sign off on it. He may have to pass it through the State House of Assembly. They will tell you house is not sitting, you know, all those things. So it might take a year, 2 years, but you just have to keep at it. You have to keep in touch with your contact persons and then pray that during that period, there's no reshuffle or reappointment, because then you have to start all over again. I have one state that I've been talking to like that too. We got it to a point. In that case, unfortunately, the person we're talking to passed on. So that truncated that conversation. Okay, let's start again now. They haven't appointed the replacement. That one first took months. A new replacement came in. Okay, let's go and see this person because I'm working with a partner on that. So when I say partners now, I'm talking more like brokers. So I can pay a brokerage fee for you facilitating the conversation, right? So that's who I call a partner. So talking to the partner, when are we going to see? We've been trying to get an appointment for the last couple of months, you know. But then if the guy calls me tomorrow and says they want to meet on Friday, I'm hopping on a plane on Friday and going. That's another thing with government. You have to be very mobile because they will tell you, let's meet tomorrow. You can't, it's not like private that you say, ah, sorry, my calendar is full. Can we reschedule to next? Because you don't know when next you will pin the guy down. So if you're dealing public sector, you have to be willing to travel on a whims, just like that. So I guess on the surface, there isn't much difference in dealing, apart from the financial aspect of the transaction.
All right. So we are coming gradually to the end of the session. It's been a very, very interesting and insightful session so far. There are some times where, because at one of my previous employers, we had like a separate team that handled public sector businesses, and at a whim, you just hear that, oh, these guys are traveling to Akwa Ibom, and they'll be there for 3 weeks and absolutely no progress. They're unable to see, they're even unable to see the person that they went there to see. So those are some of the nuances with public sector relationships. So you've been in sales for over a decade, about a decade and a half, if I'm correct. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So what has been like your highest moment? What is that moment that is your proudest moment in sales?
Um, to be honest with you, I think it's this current role. I won't say it's a moment. I would say it's a series of events that have somewhat validated, that acted as some sort of validation that, okay, yes, I let me just, for what of a better expression, I have arrived, in the sense that, yes, I sabi the work small,
Yeah.
um, and it's again, I wouldn't. That's why I wouldn't say it's one event, right? Because they've always, you would have wins, you would lose, but you would lose a lot more than you would win. But then you just knuckle down and on to the next one. I always tell my team that you should never be afraid to lose a deal. Because I find that as salespeople, we like to romance leads. You have a lead that you have maybe done a product demo for, and they told you are coming. And it's in your pipeline, and week in, week out, during your sales, your team stand up, you are reporting it as you are waiting feedback, you are yet to hear from them. And I tell them, so this guy has spent 6 weeks, 8 weeks in your pipeline. It's not moving. You will just be romancing the lead, and then after 3 months, 4 months, you not come and tell me they said they're not going. I said I could have told you that 2 months ago, But so that I don't sound like I'm not encouraging you, I won't say it, But if I was going to pick one particular time, I could say one of my previous jobs, I worked on a team and we won an account. That account was I think it was about $1 billion then.
Wow.
That was 2015, 2016. Was a team thing. Everybody chipped in, and the account came to us, and that was
Was
it.
it a private or public sector deal?
Oh, it was private. It was private.
Oh wow.
It was private. Yeah. It was a big account. It was Julius Berger. So they had plenty lives. So that account alone was what more than many HMOs total portfolio in the market then. So I can say if I point to one instance that, but if you ask me now, I would say this role, the last 1 year, everything that has happened, I would say this is like, yes, my biggest, because I stepped into a new space, and I mean, so far so good.
Mm. So would you say you're enjoying tech sales more than like traditional sales?
It's is it would I say, I think that because I'm still within the health space, right? The only thing that is different now is the product I'm selling or the service that I'm selling and my target customers. So in the health insurance space, the hospitals were my enemies because they're always worrying my accounts, right? But
Yeah,
on this side now, they're my customers. And I mean, if you say this outside, I'll deny it, yeah. And I don't pity them because they showed me Pepe too when I was in health insurance. So I always tell my people when they come and they're asking for some discounts, I tell them no, 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 no. That these people, what they're trying now, they won't take it from a HMO. So you shouldn't also take it from them. It's business. There's a logic behind the numbers, and you just have to. And then they go and they come back and say, they agreed. I say, you see now, they were just doing shakara for you. It's
yeah,
all part of the game, you know. They tell you we'll go somewhere. Go now. You know. Yeah, because I've learned that when you bend over backwards, there's no customer that is loyal to you.
yeah.
In the real sense of it, there is no customer that is loyal to you. The customer is loyal to themselves in terms of how much they think they can get off you, how much of a discount they can get off you, and how much of concessions they can get off you. So when a customer comes to you for concessions, your own primary responsibility is to your own business, the person paying your salary. How detrimental of an impact will they have on your business? Because if they kill your business, they will move on to the next provider. It has happened to me in a previous job before. We
Mm-hmm.
bent backwards for this client, did everything outside of their policy just because we wanted to keep this client. And the next renewal, they moved on because they seemingly got a better deal. So for me, it was a big, big lesson that, yes, I'm not saying don't give concessions, right? I'm not saying don't give discounts, but do not injure yourself because you want to keep them. They will still leave you. And then you, who dragged your people for all the concessions that killed your business, you'll be out of a job. Then you'll be on to the next business they want to kill.
Mm-hmm.
So you must always have that at the back of your mind, that your primary responsibility is to generate revenue for your organization. You are a revenue enabler. So yes, you can give discounts, but you must always also protect your revenue and never be afraid. Don't If a customer is leaving me today because they cannot afford to pay me, I will sleep well at night. Because what it then tells me is that the day they are able to afford you, they will come back. But if they are leaving you because of service, then you cannot sleep. But I think people always feel that once any customer that is living like this is a problem. So you must always distinguish the factors that are within your control and the ones that are outside of your control. Their cash flow is outside of your control. You can give discounts. If you can give 20, 30% discounts to try and keep them, as long as it doesn't hurt your own bottom line, no problem. But you see, when you start moving into the zone of 50% discounts and some funny concessions that you have to write long memo, spend
Seek
with your
approvals.
to seek approvals, some weird things, just move on. You know, that's my own um that's my own philosophy.
Nice, nice, nice. I've had a similar experience before as well. And the guys that we gave the concession to, they used us for a few months, used our pricing to
They will
negotiate
be using you to shop for a new vendor.
exactly
You
if
know,
to negotiate something better with someone else. And
yes.
at the end of the day, they left us. It was quite
They,
painful.
it is a time-tested principle. You see, once a client starts to tell you plenty drama, you have to, you see, as a salesperson too, you need to also be able to read body language. You need to read between the lines. Yes, in this era now, everybody quickly runs to virtual meetings. But I always tell people that the value you get from face-to-face calls, the value you get from one face-to-face call, you cannot get it in 100 virtual calls, even with your camera on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But if I'm in the room with you, your tone, your body language, I'm reading all those things, because that's what will tell me whether what you're saying with your mouth is really or you're just telling me because you're just posting me. So the moment you start going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth like that, and they start asking for funny concessions, you should just make a call. Are they going or are they staying? Especially in my own case, the average private hospital, I'm just keeping most of them, not because the revenue they're giving me is great, but to me also, it's also building the portfolio to say, yeah, we have X number of clients. If we have only state, assuming we had only state governments, we would only have maybe like 3-4 clients right now. But if I add the state governments plus the
Private.
private, I can say, oh, I have this number of customers, put it on my website, bragging rights, right? Not because they contribute a substantial amount to my bottom line.
Mm-hmm,
So if I come to you and I say, okay, I need to raise prices. I'm paying for AWS. It's dollar. Dollar is gone to 1.6. I need
mm-hmm,
to raise your rates because inside that money you're paying me, I pay AWS, I'll pay salaries, I'll keep the lights on. And then the guy says, oh, I can't afford it, I can't afford it. And then I tell people, the longer they have used your software, the more difficult it is for them to even move.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because changing software is a whole new game.
Yeah, switching
The
costs. Stuff like
training, the user journey, all those things. So sometimes don't be afraid to call their bluff. If you've been with me for 4 years, okay, you're going nowhere now because
that.
when you want to start from, you will call Helium, you will call Genesis, they will do bid, then they will now start building workflow for you into the software. Do you know how many
Mhm.
weeks that takes? Then you now start talking about data migration. You have 5 years data in your hand. Yeah, you're not going anywhere. And I will say, okay, you can't pay this much, Abi, and let's sit down and negotiate. What will you pay?
Yeah, meeting
So
the
those are the things.
yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. That was very, very, very insightful. My last question for you will be, what has been your worst moment so far in sales? Like, have you lost any business that because there was let me give an example. There was a time where I was managing an account and I made an error in the configuration of the merchant, and we had about 60 million naira in losses. There was someone else on the team. Thank God my own was even 60 million. There was someone else on the team that did a mistake in the configuration, and they lost, like the organization lost about 2 billion. So we had to now start doing a lot of reconciliation and meeting this kind of different kind of people for money and just running around. So what has been like your worst or your lowest moment in sales so far? Sales, account management, relationship management.
Uh, okay, one comes to mind. So in this same job, right? There was this client. When I came in, they were owing money. They were owing us about 120 million.
Oh.
So I had traveled like 5 times. This client is in the east. gone to this place like 5 times in the last year, right? And unfortunately, they don't even have an airport in their state. So I have to go to the next state, then go by road for like 1 hour, then 1 hour back to the hotel, right? And with all the insecurity and everything, each time I'm going, I'm always like, God, I beg, you know. So at a point, started conversations around payments, repayments, blah 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 blah, and everything. So you're owing me 120 million. Me, I already know that. Well, that money is a long thing, you know. You don't pay your. So at the point, day two, they were now shopping. Had a thought that they were shopping, and then I'm like, okay, how do we manage this? Let's work out a payment plan. Uh, Let's even see what we can get from this conversation. Then suddenly you hit us with termination. Okay, you want to go, no problem. But I cannot go with my 120 million now. How we go out? So most of the equipment that were on site, we supplied. Again, you have to learn from mistakes when you're doing sales, especially with government. You try a model, when you burn your finger one time, please don't do it again. Rejig your model. So the model we did with that client, it's not a state government, it's a public facility, it's a teaching hospital, was we funded the project, right? Supplied the computers, the servers, the everything they were using, printers, everything, radios, everything. Provided all that. With the understanding that every month we will take a percentage of the revenue that is generated from the system every month. Right. Now, first mistake was we're not doing direct debit collection of our own. So we will just run the report and say, these are much money you guys have made this month. These are our percentage. This is your invoice. They will just ghost us. And, you know, like that, it was piling. So when I came in at 120 million, there's this money now, ran to the place. So you now hit us with termination. Okay, how will you pay? So we now had a conversation. I also spoke with my operations guys. Like, we have, I can't remember how many systems we had in that place. Well, before we start moving systems, moving servers, moving everything, okay, let's just sell this to them as part of the loan repayment. So we had an agreement that they will pay 60 million of the 120, and we write off the rest and they keep the computers. Okay, send us on letterhead, everything. I worked with legal. Legal, can I hold them accountable? Say yes, it's on their letterhead, signed by their CMD. So, okay, you pay me the 60 million. How will you pay me? Say you pay me 10 million every month for 6 months. So I came back, had a conversation with my boss, convinced my boss that 60 million is better than nothing. Because if they go, we don't have anything to hold them with, blah, 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 blah. So the first month, they paid 10 million. Bam. In my head, I was like, I've negotiated correct. My guy, this is the 6th month. I've not received any money after that. I will text the CMD. He will read my WhatsApp message. He will ghost me. I will call, he will not pick. So last week, I sat down, I drafted a letter. And I haven't sent it out because I don't think that letter is harsh enough. But I want to write it very harshly. No, seriously. Because this man throughout that time kept talking about his integrity and how he wants. I even sent him a message over the weekend saying, nobody's stressing me at work, but I feel a sense of responsibility that I have to bring that money in because I negotiated those terms. So I sent him a message saying, look, they are worrying me in the office because I stood in place for you on this agreement. The guy read my message since Saturday. He has not responded today, Wednesday. So for me, I actually felt used. Let me just hit the nail on the head. Right? I felt used, and I kind of feel like, okay, maybe I was too trusting, because I actually wanted them to sign a contract or something I could hold. But I still have a letter, at least it's documented. Like I said, if it's not documented, it never happened. So I insisted on a letter-headed paper signed stating the payment terms. And they've only paid once out of the possible, assuming they were paying, this would have been the last month. So only one sort of 5 payments have been made, and they've ghosted me, and my systems are there. So I want to send that letter. Then I want to speak with my legal team if we can still do recovery. I'm ready to go to that place and go and carry those systems. But I would say that that's like my lowest point. The first mine, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Situations like this are usually very crazy, and hopefully you don't get to go to court, because I know of one that happened as well. It ran into about $300,000, and at the end of the day, they had to sue the company even outside. Like, they took the case to a
It's
court
outside Nigeria.
Nigeria, and then the company won the case, and the other company was liable to pay them over $300,000. But anyways, let's hopefully you're able to resolve that issue as soon as possible.
I hope so too.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Babajide. Do we have any questions? Any members of the audience, do we have any questions or clarifications to make? All right, I'll take that as a no. One last thing before I go, I wanted to mention at the beginning, at the introduction, that one of the co-founders of TSP community is also an alumnus of OAU, and also works at Interswitch. We also have a couple of Interswitch employees or team members as members of TSP. One of them was also on the call, and he dropped off sometime during the call. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining the call. For those of you who are new to our webinar session, Tech Sales and Partnerships Community is a community that aims to foster the growth and development of tech sales professionals in Africa. So talk about relationship management, account management, partnerships, sales. We are a community that helps build or foster the growth of talents in these areas. So the link to join the Slack community or follow us on any of our social media channels is in the chat box. So you could click on those links and follow us. And the recording of this session would also be uploaded on our YouTube channel before the end of this month. Thank you, everyone, for joining the meeting. Thank you so much, Dr. Babajide, for your time. It has been a very interesting and insightful session.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.